David. David.
Dave, are you in the fridge again? Get out of the fridge.
David. What is up, everyone? My name is David Wells, and this is the David Wells Experiment. So this episode is going to be jumping all over the place. There's not going to be a consistent theme, but, as I say before, whatever piques my interest, that's what we're talking about. So first thing I've got to talk about is in relation to that podcast I did about tough times. So one life hack I've discovered is Dollar Tree, of all places, actually has some decent groceries. I think because I've shopped there before back when they were exclusively $1.08. I was like, you'd have to get terribly sick in order to get something from Dollar Tree, like to try to have sustenance from them. But that's not the case. They actually sell some really legit food, and it doesn't get any more expensive than $5. So on Sunday, me and my brother went to the gym, and we decided to stop by there, and we find some stuff we find a 5-hour energy knockoff that's just like $1.08. Works pretty well. And they have some electrolyte drinks, which that surprised me. I can't believe I only spent like $1.08 rather than I must spend like $5 or something at Target when I get their off-brand Pedialyte. And so I'm deciding, okay, I'm going to check out their grocery options. Like, is it just going to lead to type 2 diabetes? But because I've had some family members who have had various forms of it, so I don't want to repeat history. So I go over the grocery aisle, and I'm surprised they've got a lot of options. The thing that surprised me the most was I was able to buy a bag of chicken breasts for $5, and it had like 7 of them in there. Now, if I was to go to work and get a sandwich, it would cost me almost $5. If I use my discount, I'd be able to get that for $2.50. But here I am able to get that for roughly $5 plus tax. So that's a lot of protein on a budget. So if you've got like family and you're trying to script and save like a lot of people are, Dollar Tree is like a legit option. Yeah, so I'd encourage people to give it a shot because, yeah, why not? What do you have to lose? So anyway, I guess another reason why that's a big deal for me also is I've been trying to eat at home and I didn't eat so much protein. And the weather has been hot recently. Thank God yesterday and today it's cooler. But on the last day I was working where it was really, really hot, I was starting to feel it. I felt kind of dizzy. I had electrolyte solutions, but still, it was just getting to me. Until I ate a lot of protein, that kind of helped me snap back to it. And I'm like, shoot, I'm trying to save money. Am I going to have to buy a lot of protein in order to not pass out? So anyway, this is a godsend. So what other stuff do I want to talk about? It's funny. I did have one of their 5-hour energy shots, but yeah, it was at like 5 in the morning. Oh, one thing I've been looking at is so in case you didn't know, I make films and everything. And one of the things I've been getting a lot of ads for online is this thing called Big Films. It's funny, this video almost sounds like sponsorship videos, but I'm not getting paid. Yeah. So anyway, and it's this thing where you can drag and drop special effects. So one of the ways I got into filmmaking was way back in the day, back when public access was a thing, And if you have to ask that, it was a while ago. So anyway, back when for those who don't know, public access was this thing on television before YouTube and the internet and streaming, where the cable companies would give just regular people a channel that they could broadcast on. This is basically like streaming before streaming was a thing. That's the best way I can put it, except on regular old TV. But there was a set time you had, and yeah, you had that one window of opportunity. I never got to do that. I think the reason why was because um, around the time that I discovered that, YouTube was just around the corner. So while I never got to do that, um, I looked into I looked into trying to start a public access channel, but then of course I got YouTube and I didn't have to worry about that. So anyway, um, I watched this one show that normally put out music videos, but it was basically songs cut to anime footage. One evening they make this really cheap, or one evening they show this short film, this really cheaply made fantasy adventure movie that was just with a bunch of kids. But what stood out was the fact that they had like lightsabers and lightning and energy blasts. And I guess this speaks to my sort of self-aggrandizing. I mean, if you see me, I wear a hat at work all the time. But anyway, I watched this and I had this feeling if I had the same access to the same resources, I could do a better job. And that's what started me making films. Now, I've never gotten to do anything with special effects, but seeing this special effects package that's constantly being marketed to me, I have a feeling, maybe this is the time for me to make that, because previously my filmmaking efforts have been relegated to comedies and dramas because that's what I could figure out. So it's making me think I might look into this because I do have some ideas that go a bit out of my comfort zone. So, oh, another thing. I can't believe I didn't start off the episode with this. So, thanks to all the people who have been listening to my podcast, the other day I found out that my podcast now qualifies for sponsorship. It's unlocked the ambassador ads program with Anchor and vis-a-vis Spotify. So now I have the potential to get sponsored. Now I'm still waiting for Anchor to match me up with a sponsor. But, we've made it sort of. So if this podcast keeps growing and my audience keeps growing, I can get sponsors and I can get paid to make this podcast. Right now, it's just for fun, but around the corner, I could actually get some income. Now, one of the goals I have is um, if you're one of the people who I've met at work, thanks for the support. One of my goals with this podcast is try to make it. I don't need to be rich and famous with this podcast. All I want, success for me would be making the same amount of money that I make at work doing this. Like, that would be golden. And thanks to the people who have listened, I'm closer to that. So anyway, yeah, regarding the big special effects stuff, that leads me into the next topic of conversation. So one of the things that I've noticed is it seems like the popular thing is to do with superheroes, aside from the obvious stuff of like Marvel and DC, is to do some sort of dark meta contemplative take on superheroes where they're superheroes, but not everything is all rosy and it's grim and people die and stuff. I'm not even talking about Watchmen. Well, yeah, Watchmen, but more specifically shows like The Boys. And I think I think Netflix also had something like that. It was Jupiter or something or whatever. But anyway, one of the things I've noticed in all these gritty, dark, realistic superhero commentary movies or shows is that Superman is always evil. Oh, Invincible, that's another one that comes to mind. Yes, their Superman figure is always the bad guy. And it's funny how that trope always works out. It, in fact, it's almost always the formula for those shows. If you can find a figure who's supposed to be Superman, he's going to be the bad guy and he's going to be key to the narrative. And I think it's just interesting that they all do that. So, with this special effects package, it gave me an idea for my own dark, gritty superhero show. But the idea I had for it was that the Superman character of my show, he basically sees all the evil in the world, and rather than become evil, he just can't deal with it, and he becomes suicidal. But because he's Superman and he can't, he's invincible, it's almost impossible for him to kill himself. So, but his whole quest is trying to do that, and people who get in his way, he takes care of them, and that's what sort of puts him on this morally ambiguous scale rather than just, oh, Superman's evil. I feel it's a trap that all these shows fall into. I think the exception would be Watchmen, because Dr. Manhattan doesn't seem to be evil. He just becomes so far removed from humanity that he finds it difficult to relate to them. It's funny, I remember when I first heard about The Boys being made, I heard that Seth Rogen was going to be a producer. I'm like, oh, it's going to be a comedy. And I watch a couple episodes, and it is anything but. I think I might have mentioned this before, but I can't help but wonder if we're just around the corner from superheroes kind of in a reactionary manner going back to just sheer ridiculousness. Like if we've been doing the dark, gritty, realistic superhero movies for almost 20 years, if you're counting Batman Begins as the genesis of that. You could make the argument that the Sam Raimi Spider-Man and the Bryan Singer X-Men movies, they kickstarted that off. Because, the first X-Men movie, it feels like it would happen in the real world. There's fantastical elements, but it does feel grounded in reality. I can't help but wonder if we're going to go back to the ridiculousness of superhero movies, of like, say, the Joel Schumacher era of Batman films. And the thing is, I think that the most ridiculous thing about the Joel Schumacher Batman movies wasn't even their aesthetic, although that was pretty extra. I think the thing that was so extra about those movies was basically the script writing. So my theory is when superhero movies eventually bounce back from gritty, dark realism, I think the thing that is not going to change is story mechanics. I think that's the thing that has to remain the same. I think the aesthetics, that might go back to sort of a pre-Chris Nolan, pre-Sam Raimi era, but I I don't think story is going to change. I think one of the reasons why superhero movies, why the good ones stick around and do as well as they do, is because of story. But anyway, so this is the first episode of the David Wells experiment I have recorded since qualifying for ad sponsorship. Um, Again, thank you to everyone who's helped, and I can't wait to get to the point where one day you'll hear an episode and say something to the effect of, "This episode is brought to you by NordVPN." I'm not sponsored by NordVPN, yet it would be cool to be sponsored by them one day because I hear about them all the time. But yeah, it'd be the most amazing thing to make a living just by saying, like, this product is great, and just talking about it. Because I talk about so many products and I don't make a dime. But yeah, that would be amazing. So, this has been the David Wells Experiment. Have an absolutely super day, and we'll see you next time. Bye.